Crystal, thanks for sitting down with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Crystal, your company started back in 1970, and that was just before the PVP Act in 1971. A lot has changed in plant breeding over those years. Can you trace through with me a little bit your path as it relates to the plant breeding?
Well, it really all started with my father. So he began our businesses and got grass seed production going in Oregon, and realized that instead of just trading, that it would be better if we could develop some better genetics and have proprietary rights. So he started a research company called Pure Seed Testing, which is the first place I worked as a teenager. Because of the PVP Act, we were able to do that and put money into research and start developing grasses at that time, and we've been doing it ever since.
And now you're the president of Pure Seed.
Yes, Pure Seed and Pure Seed Testing.
Right.
So Pure Seed is the marketing production company, and they take the genetics and then work with growers and do the marketing and ship the seed around the world.
Your Oregon location is one of the largest areas in the world for turfgrass testing and breeding. Can you shed a little light on why was that the right place for you folks to be setting up camp, so to speak?
Yes. Well, besides the Wild West, it really had to do with that's a good production area. And so my family has also grass seed production. So we kind of have all levels, if you will, from research to production to marketing. And so our first love is producing crops that the growers can actually raise economically and works for them as well as works out in the marketplace. So that's a key place to be able to develop varieties that can do both.
Right. And so having that verticalness creates a fair amount of control.
Yes, it does, and knowledge. So that's one of the cool things that I get to travel around the world to conferences such as ISF and meet with other companies and other countries and understand the needs that we have. Then I can go home and do the breeding and research work and then work with the growers to get it produced and then ship it out.
You're having lots of conversations here at the ISF Seed Congress, I'm sure. What does turfgrass of the future look like, in your opinion?
Well, grass is really a cool species because it helps with erosion control, it helps with the environment, it's also a feed for horses, cattle, animals, so it kind of binds the world together. So to me, the future of grass is something that is economically produced for the grower, so you have to have good seed production in multiple locations because some of our production areas are decreasing, but also meeting some of the needs for the end user, which in this day and age means usually less fungicides, less water, poor quality water, even less fertilizer, but still able to be aggressive and grow and produce the foliage that it needs to do whatever need it is in the marketplace.
Right. The Australian market's a little different than the U.S. market, different structure set in place. Can you talk a little bit about, do you do business in Australia first? Yeah, you do business here. And can you talk a little bit about maybe some of those differences of doing business in Australia compared to doing it in the U.S.?
Well, it's a little bit more about drought tolerance and salt tolerance and things that will actually grow here.
Right.
We do have some similar areas in the U.S., and water is also becoming a huge issue around the world. So those synergies have actually worked throughout the years. We've done work in Australia for many years, and that has actually been a cool thing between breeders here, where we're sharing germplasm back and forth, but also getting into the market with something. And usually if something works well in the U.S., we have a national testing system, so it has to do well in lots of different environments. That's partly why I think U.S. products do well worldwide, because we can take those regions and apply that data to different parts of the world.
There's a lot of different ecosystems that you get to test in. Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You're here to learn from your peers. You're here to share with your peers here. Is there it's a two-stage question. One, is there lessons that you get specifically from the ISF World Seed Congress? And then two, is there lessons that the rest of the seed industry could take from the turfgrass industry?
Yes. The lessons that I learn are in this business, we're working with crops and plants and seeds, which is kind of my first love. But then you're also working with people. So the importance of this whole industry is really relationships and trust. And at a meeting like this, you're meeting people sometimes for the first time that you've never met. And yet the synergies that we have together in knowing how to produce seed and produce plants so that we can all make some money, but also get that product out to where it's needed is just a really cool thing. And so meeting with some of the technologies here, people have learned how to do things differently in different parts of the world, and then we can share what we do and the products that we have, and just finding those niches where different products work and can make a difference and add value to all the parties involved is a cool thing. Now, the second part of the question was about how the seed industry
might learn from the turfgrass industry. So that smaller segment of the seed industry, what could the rest of the seed industry learn from the turfgrass segment?
I think the turfgrass segment is a little more broadly adapted and a lot of different species. So we are pretty flexible in that, and we're able to apply things from different species that maybe work in this species and then try something new in another species, whereas wheat is all wheat. And grass is a little bit behind in the molecular breeding and some of those things. But because of the diversity in grass, we can bring that to the table, and maybe some things can be learned in the other crops based on that. And also in this day and age, we're really having to learn how to diversify. Sometimes you can't just grow one crop, and so you have to be flexible and figure out another crop that you can rotate in, or that makes a better solution to the problem that the end user has.
I think one of the big conversations happening here is at the World Seed Congress is specifically about that, about identifying secondary crops that can really take us to the promised land, so to speak. And I think grasses are playing a big role in that. Yes,
grasses are amazing. The more I travel, I realize grass is used everywhere. It's used in different ways, but it really does kind of bind the world together, if you will, for a crop. And I can go anywhere in the world, literally, and either collect grasses or work with the university, or go to a sports field, or go to a pasture up in the mountains of Costa Rica, or go down to a golf course and see where grass is being used and find the issues and the problems they're having, and then look for solutions.
If I was to ask you for one thing that makes Pure Seed unique in the turfgrass sector, what would that one thing be?
I really feel like we stand behind our name.
Right.
In that ethics are very important in this industry, and keeping things pure, if you will. And we do natural breeding, but we also work with universities to bring in some of the newer techniques, molecular markers, etc. But our crops are so important, I think, to the environment and to the world, that it's important to be honest about those, and honest for the breeder, honest with the grower. And in the U.S. we have something called VNS, which is something we're battling right now, and breeders' rights are very important. And so to me, the honesty in the industry is what our company really tries to do in all our labeling and all our products, you know, all those things to really put forth the truth, if you will, with what we're doing.
Excellent. Thanks very much for your time, Crystal. I appreciate the chat.
Thank you so much.